Okay, with the first question, we're looking at the box plot, and it's asked for the range. Now, remember that the an outlier is still your maximum value, so the range is maximum minus minimum, and that would be 690 minus the minimum here, which is 330. So we get 360. So our answer is E. With question 2, when you're asked to find the mean and the standard deviation, you need to pop this in a list in your calculator, and then you just do the stats on one variable, and you should get your mean and standard deviation. So remember, this is the symbol for the mean, and the standard deviation is SX, and that answer ends up being D. Okay, with this question 3, once you see this approximately normally distributed, you're going to draw your bell curve. So draw your bell curve over here, and you'll know they'll start stating what the things are. So they state that the mean is 4.6. So if you go up one standard deviation of 0.8, you get 5.4, and let's go. So when they said the number of patrons who expected between 3 and 6.2, we're just going to float around those standard deviations and see until we see those numbers. So if I minus 0.8, I get 3.8, and minus another 0.8, I get 3. So there's one of the ones we wanted, and then I keep adding 0.8 and I get 6.2. So we want between the number of patrons between that's 2 standard deviations. So when we have plus and minus 2, we have 95%. So we're going to say we want 95% of how many people we have, which they've told me, of 2800, and then you get your answer of 26600. Okay, with this question 4, when they say we have 23 producers, so what they're actually telling you there, that n equals 23, and also they want you to find, and this is, take note, that's a frequency, so number. They want to find the median great production. So we can find the median at the n plus 1 divided by 2 spot or position. So if you go 23 plus 1 divided by 2, so we end up with the 12th spot. So if you look here, we've counted up 2, and then what we're going to do is add another 6, which would be 8. So we need to get to 12. So when we add another 5, so 12, the 12th one happens in here. So this is my median category. Now when you see the log and it says log 10 2, all that means is that number is actually 10 to the power of 2. So we're in between 10 to the power 2 and 10 to the power 3. So 10 to the power 2 is 100, and 10 to the power 3 is 1,000. So this is how we get the answer D. Okay, when they ask us for the variables, these, and then weight in categories, when they ask what type, these are both categorical. This one here is categorical, and there's no order to it. So we're going to say that's categorical, and that one is actually nominal. Now with the weight, even though it's a number, but it's actually saying between here and here, so that's also categorical. But because we have like a small weight going up to bigger and so on, it does have some order, so that one's ordinal. So when you look at the answer, when they say you're looking for nominal listed first, then ordinal, respectively, because what that means is whatever they said first, which they said the nominal, and then they said the ordinal, that's the way the answer is. So E is the answer. Okay, in this next question, when they ask, is there an association between weight and destination, what you need to do is you need to compare the regions. So we've got the CBD, metropolitan, regional, but then you need to compare the same, to say there's an association, you better look at the same thing. So what we're saying is compare the same weight category. So if you have a look, they've compared the 10 to 19. We can see from CBD, you've got about 30%. And then when you go down to regional, there's 50%. So this is the best answer here because it's comparing that, and so therefore it's showing an association. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. Okay, when we look at this question and they're asking which graph, a person's weight, that's a numerical data, and then the place of region, whether it is city or regional, so that's categorical, and we have 2 categories. So if you have a look at our options, a scatter plot, we need 2 numerical data, so that's out. An ordered stem plot is probably not the best because they've got too many people. Dot plot, no, and a histogram, no. Because we've got 2, the best one is probably this. The ordered stem plot, you could have a back-to-back. That's probably what you needed, a back-to-back, if you're going to use that. So that's not good unless it's a back-to-back. So the best one is the parallel box plot. Okay, with this question 8, what you need to be careful is make sure you're answering what they're asking. So when they say the percentage, I like to write always. So when we were working out a percentage, we say the amount out of the total times 100. So it makes you think about it a little bit more. Now, they want the percentage who have males, so of the female siblings. So that's our total. Who took 2 attempts. So of the female siblings who took 2 attempts. So we're talking about all of these guys. The percentage of the males who took 3 attempts. So of all of them, you just want the males who took 3 attempts. So the total, so we've got the 5 out of the total, which was all the females, and then it times by 100. So we end up with 5 over 23 times 100, which gives us C, 22. Okay, with this question 9, the intercept of the least squares line tells us that. So they're pretty much that when the recoefficient is 0. So you're pretty much trying to find in this equation, a plus bx, the intercept of that is actually the a value. So that's the intercept there. So you need to go get the intercept of this, and the least square regression line is this line here. But what you need to be careful of, this is not the intercept because that is not 0. So you need to probably find the equation of that line. So you can just use 2 points, and because we're doing core, you can just put in lists and spreadsheets, put 2 points in, so just have x and y if you like, and then we'll do 2 points. So I might use when x down here was 20, we got a y of 18, and then I might use up here wherever across up here with 45. We say x is 45, y is, 36 or something, and you should get a rough. So then you can put in and do a lin reg, and you'll get that the a value is roughly 0.7. Okay, so there's your answer. Just be really careful and make sure you check. That is not the y-intercept up there. Okay, so with this next question, they're asking for the residual at when the rainfall, or when x is 32. So always a good idea when you get a question like this, write the formula for residual. So residual is actual minus predicted. Okay, so the actual can be found by using the dot on it can either be a table of values, but we don't have that, or the dot. So I'm going to go to 32. So I'll go up on 32, and the dot here is there. And if you measure off, it's 23. So the y value is about 23. Then we get the predicted by using, that we can either use the formula, or we don't have the formula either. We can see the line. So I'll go get the predicted at this point. There's the predicted here, up here. So that's the predicted. So if you read across, it's like it's about 27. You go across there. So the residual is 23 minus 27, so it's about -4 off. Okay, so the residual is actually the difference there. How much difference between what the line says and what the dot says. If the dot is under, it's a negative residual. If the dot was over, say up here, this one would have a positive residual. Okay, with this question 11, what they're looking at is they were looking at the response of someone's weight with the amount of stand-up time at their desk. So, and they found that if you had, it was a negative. So we can see if we spend more time standing up, we weigh less, which is probably burn more energy. So when you look at these the next statements, you can't have anything like, so 80% no who stand up. That's just wrong. It's a gross overlay. The slope is not -0.8. They're telling me the R value is, so that was just the strength. Now, this one, office workers who tend to spend more time at a stand-up desk each day tend to weigh less. Because they're using that word 10, I like it because that's what the trend is showing. So that's a good statement. If you look at the rest, 64% of the office workers who switch to stand-up desks, that's just another gross statement. We don't know that. We only know what a trend, and 64% we should only be using that wording that we use for the R squared value. And 20% of workers who spent increased time did not lose weight. That's another just gross statement. You can't really say that. So C is the best. Okay, with this question, you're just asked to predict a weight of a 90-year-old patient. So you can see you've got the formula up here, but this is transform formula. So when you're using one of them, just make sure you just put solve in. So we're just going to go solve and pop in, all the numbers. And you've been given the age, so times 90, and then we'll just code common W, because it's not, this formula is showing 1 over W, not W, but if you do the solve in the calculator, you'll get it, so just do that. Okay, so this is the last question in the course, so expect to do a bit of work, and what they've asked you to do is to get the line, which is the linear regression equation, but they've asked you to do a transformation, and they want you to predict the number of staff from the log of the year. So they wanted you to do a log X transformation. So what you're going to do into your calculator, you need to put in lists and spreadsheets. You need to put in these two lists as they are, so year and number of staff, blah, 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 blah. Then you have to create a third list. So you might call it log year. And remember down the formula, you're going to write that equals log 10. And because I called the other one year, you press year. And then when you go do your lin reg, just make sure your X list is now that new log year, that one. And your Y list you didn't change, so that will just be NS. And then you get the formula. You'll see that the A value is 5.2 and the B value is 36.1. So just remember that the formula will now have log 10, those values. So you can see how we get A, okay? Okay, with this question, they asked for the 7 median smooth line for week 12. So what you go for 12, and you want the 7 around that. So 3 below, 1, 2, 3, and 3 above, 1, 2, 3. So if you remember, we get our ruler, and if you've got 7 numbers in order, the median would occur at the 4th one. That'd be the middle. So as we go up, we're going to cross off, or you count how many. So you hit the first one, there's 1, then we go 2, and then 3, and then so our 4th one is there. So this becomes our median, which is 40. So that's how we do the median. Okay, in question 15, when we see this correct for seasonality, that is just another way of saying deseasonalized. So if you write deseasonalized is actual divided by seasonal index. So what should you do if you want to deseasonalize the sales in winter? Well, we haven't been given an actual, but if I made up an actual, and I'm going to make up 100 so that I can see. If you looked, it would be 100, the D seasonal value would be 100 divided by winter's index, which is 0.8, which equals 125. So you can see we have increased, we've gone up by 25, which we can say is like 25% because I used 100, so I could see that. So the answer is C, and that's how we get that. In the last one, the D seasonal's value they want Thursday, and they want the D seasonal value. So once again, we know D seasonalized is actual over seasonal index. So we have been given the actual here. So we've got 3820 over seasonal index. So we need the seasonal index for Thursday. Now, because there are 7 categories here, or whatever, seasons. Sorry, I can't count. 4, 5, 6, 7. The way you find the seasonal index here would be 7 minus all the other ones added up, and that will give you the seasonal index. Okay, so we get 0.83 when we do that. So over here becomes 3820 divided by 0.83, which equals 4602. So that's how we get that answer. You had to do a couple of things, but it is the last question in the core, so that's expected. Okay, with this first question, you're looking for the relation or the formula that will produce this sequence. So if you trial and error, you'll see that this is the only one. So if you look, the first term was -1. We get the second term by going 4 times -1 plus 4, which would be 0. So that's what you see. And then if you went to do the third term, it'd be 4 times 4 plus 4, which would be 20, and so on. So you get that one. So that one, just a little bit of trial and error, I guess. Okay, in the second one, in question 18, we see that it's a unit cost method. So we start looking at things like the original cost is there, and it produces every year 90,000 coffees. So when they ask you the depreciation in the value of the coffee machine per serving, let's have a look at how we do that. So, okay, so the amount that it reduces per coffee, what we need to know is the amount it dropped, which was, its original was 42,500, and it now is valued at 9,600. So if you minus that, you'll see how much it has dropped by in value. Now, the amount of uses, it has been going for 3 years, and it does 90,000 per year. So, which we read, so then we can get that, and if you do that sum, we end up with 12 cents per coffee. Okay, with this next one, the Daniel invests 12,000 at 4% compounding quarterly. So all these things we should start thinking, so PPY equals 4, invests, that's like the principal original amount. We've been given the interest rate. So when they ask for the recurrence relation that can be used, so this is compound interest. So we might want to use our table. So if we look at this little thing from our table, we can see we can set up the formula for the recurrence relation, which is actually this formula here. So what we're going to do is we state the VO for a recurrence relation, so it's 12,000. And then we're going to write the rule, which we know is the R times VN. So we need to work out R, which is 1 plus the rate, which is 4.6, over the PPY, which is 4 over 100. So we end up with 1.115. So then you see that the answer is D. Oh, sorry, C. Beg your pardon. C. Okay. Okay, in question 20, when we have an interest-only loan, that means the loan balance never changes from 120. It'll always be 120. And she's only ever going to pay the interest charge. So the amount Nicole owes at the end of 5 years, well, she still owes that because she's only paying the bank the interest. So the answer is C. So that's pretty easy. And if you know your stuff, you'll do that one quicker. Okay, in question 21, when you're asked for the effective interest rate, we have a formula on the calculator that does that. Okay, so you go to finance and interest conversion. You put the per annum rate in first, so 7.8, then you go comma and you write how many times it compounds per year, and because it's 6 monthly, we've got 2. You press enter and you get your answer of 7.95. Okay, with this question 22, you need to be careful. They want you to find the payment number 10 here. So it's not as easy as it thinks, because if you have a look, we're zeroing it off here. So if you look previously, it's not dropping by that much, but we need to know what the payment is. And also, remember, generally the final payment is always adjusted. So the first thing we need to do is so at the moment, before, the last owing is this, then you'll add interest to that. And if we want to zero it off, this plus interest will be the final payment, because we know it's going to equal 0. So we need to calculate this interest. So to find the interest, we need to work out the rate. And we need to work out the interest rate, and we're going to use one of the previous payment lines to work that out. Work out percentage interest. Okay. So to work out the interest, I'm going to use this interest here. So I know that a certain interest rate of, now the balance before, when I times it by, or the balance before, which was 6972.79, that gave me interest of 348.64. So you can work out the rate. So we could just say, I'll just call the interest, so it'd be the rate over 100, whatever it was, times 6972.79 equals 348.64. And if you solve, comma R, you end up with a percentage of 4.99%. So now you know the interest rate. Let's go find the interest rate of that green payment. So we want 4.99% of the one before, 2357.50. So that's okay, so we're going to do the same, and we work out that the interest rate is 117.87. So in here, that's how much interest they paid in the last. So therefore, the final payment must equal the interest plus what was still owing, so 357.50, and we get roughly 2475, which is B. Okay, with this question of the graph, we can see that it is depreciating, so the value, it's going down, and we need to know what is happening here. So if you have a look, if it's gone from 12,000 to 10,906, in 1 year it has dropped, if you look, it's dropped $1,040. Okay, so then if you go about looking at it, because it does look like a straight line, so it may be this flat rate, but if you work out 8% with flat rate, it's the same amount every time. So 8% of the original value, 12,000, is 960. So it didn't drop that much. It dropped 10,904. So if we try the next one, so an annuity, which is sort of like an investment, but you take money out. So if you have a look, an annuity, they're taking out a 2,000 made to the investor with an interest rate of 8% per annum. So let's have a look. If you did that in Finance Solver, so if we said after 1 year with an interest rate of 8%, we're going to invest our 12,000 So we'll give the bank that. But we're going to take out payments to use our money, and every year we're going to take out, because it said 2,000, so we'll get back 2,000. We want to know what the final value is to see if it's one of these things, and it's only happening once a year. Okay, when you look at that, you get the answer of 10,960, which is what we see up here on the graph. So that's how we get B. If you look at the other one, the other ones won't work if you can test them out doing the same thing. A perpetuity would remain the same. A reducing balance loan with repayments of 1,000. So you can look at that. It doesn't work. You won't get the final value that we saw there. Okay, in this question 24, it's what I like to call a split scenario. So always find out what's happening first. So they want to know what her payments are in the first 7 years. So for the first 7 years, something happens. She has a scenario, and then for the next 8 years of the last 8 years, she has a different scenario. So if we have a look, we go 1 to 7 years. This is what's happening and what we know. All right, so she's going to have, we want to know the payments for that first 7 years. So if we have a look, she'd be 7 times 12, because she's making monthly payments here. The interest rate for the first 7 years is 5.15. The PV, so what did she borrows, so the bank gave her 36,000. The payments is what the question is asking for this first 7 years. And the final value is what we'd need to know. This would be the value at the end of 7 years. So we don't know that, and PPY is 12. So there's two things we don't know, and there should only be one, because the payment is the question. Okay, so that means we need to find this. So we can use the next part of the scenario. So it says during the last 8 years, we can go. All right. So, and in 8 years, so we're going to do the last 8 years. So this is the 8 years. The last 8 years scenario. So what we know in the last 8 years, so 8 times 12, we know that it was an interest rate of 5.4. We know now PV. We don't know. So at the beginning of the last 8 years, that would be this value here, which is probably what we're going to find out. All right, so let's have a look. We do know the payments in these last 8 years. They told us that it was 2,900, so we'll put that in, and we're giving the bank our money, so it'll be a negative. Now, because they said it's paid off, we do know the final value will be 0 at the end of that next 8 years. So we go PPY is 12. So now we have a way to find out this PV. What was the amount at the beginning of the last 8 years? And it was 2,25659.42. So now we know that, we can put it over into this, into here. And so we can put that as the final value. So that will be we still owe this 0.42. So we can put that in, and we'll end up with a payment of 2,877. We'll see that. And that's how we got that answer. Okay, in a permutation matrix, it only has ones in each row and column, only one in each row or column. And so if you, so 1. So if you have a look, see how there's a 1 there, only 1, same here in each row. And then if you go across, column, and if you go across the rows, there's only a 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. So D ends up being the permutation matrix. Okay, with this question too, because they want you to times H&M, that gives you the total sales at van 1 and van 2 for the 4 days. So what you want is a matrix that has 2 elements, or 2 two elements, which is the two answers. The van 1 total and the van 2 total. So if you have a look at this m is a 4 by 2. So we have to use this m. So they're saying h by m. So we're using this 4 by 2. Now, remember when you times a matrix together, these two have to match, so it'd have to be 4. Now, because I just want two elements, and I have to take this 2, so really I want a 1 by 2 as my answer. So to get this 1 by 2, I need this one to be a 1. So now we can see that H is actually a 1 row, 4 columns. So get rid of this, this, and this. Now, when you have a look at it, there's these two. So if I have a look at C here, when you would do, so you'd have 1, 1, 1, 1 here. You would go row and column. So what that will do is that will times each of these by 1 and add them up. So essentially, it's giving the total of van 1. So this is actually the answer. The 0 will not be good. So 1 is it. Okay, when they ask in question 3, how many have a unique solution? So unique solution, the determinant will not equal 0. So if I go and look over here, the determinant of this one would be 6 times negative 2 minus negative 3 times 4. So you end up with negative 12 and a minus becomes a plus 12, so it equals 0. So this one's determinant equals 0 here, so this one does not have a unique solution. And if you go through and do all the determinants, this one equals 0, so does this one, so no, that one, and so does this last one. So none of them have a unique solution. Okay, with this question, this permutation matrix is getting times by this R matrix. And when it does, it produces this word or this matrix here, teams. Okay, so we've got first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So when we go across this row, when we go run and dive, the third one down has to produce the first letter, which is T. So if we've put the spots down here, so we go run and dive, so the third one has to be a T. Now, if we go on the second row, we're looking for the fourth one to happen. So we need when we run and dive, we need the E to be in the fourth spot. Okay, now the third letter is A, so when we do the third row, we need A to be in the second spot. And when we do the fourth row, we need M to be in the first spot. And then when we do the last row here, we want S, so we'll put S in the fifth spot. So you can see there that we've found the answer, mates. Okay, with this question, they're asking us to do an equation with matrix A and B, and then they're telling us it equals something. Okay, so we need to find matrix B, but they have given us a rule here to work out matrix A. So if I do matrix A, and what I'm saying here is this is like the I and this is the J. Okay, so we've got row, now for us to see the answer is a 2 by 3. So that means our matrix has to be a two rows by 3 columns as well. So what this formula here is saying, if you want to find the element at row 1, column 1, you do that by timesing the row by 3, so we're at row 1, and then you minus the column, which is 1. So we get 3 minus 1, which is 2. So you find out that's 2. So if you're finding out this element, that would be element row 1, column 2. So it would be 3 times 1 minus 2, which equals 1, and so on. So you keep doing that until you find out what matrix A is. So you get A, and then for you know that A, which is 2, 1, 0, 5, 4, 3, minus B, which we don't know, equals, but we know that's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So you're just going to work out what numbers do you minus from 2 to get 1, and it would be 1. 1 to get 1, that would be 0. To get 0 to get 1, positive 1. If we go minus a minus 1, that would be plus, and so on. So we get 4, 3, 2, because that would give all these answers, and that's how we get E. Okay, with this last question here on the page, they want the 1 and 2 step dominance and to give the ranking. So you've been given D here, the first dominance matrix. So you need to get 1 and 2 step, what you do is you add D plus you add D squared, and you get the answer when you do that, and you'll get 1, like you get this, it will be your answer. And the way you work out who the winner is you add up those rows. So if you have a look, that one is 4, 2, 3, and 5. So the winner. Then you got second, third, and fourth. So the answer B is D. This is like, sorry. Okay, with this question 7, we're following a normal transition matrix. So I'm going to write out, if we do the transition and if we times it by SO here, which would be A, 5, and 20, we would get S1, which they have given me, 16, B, and C. Okay, so you need to solve the following things. So we can solve, say the A here in the first, this A, we can use this top row because we would go that times this thing will give that answer. So I could say 0.1 times A plus 0.5 times 5 plus 0.6 times 20, and that gives me this answer here, 16. Once you have that statement, you can see there's only one unknown, so you can pop solve and comma A, and you end up with that A equals 15. Okay, so now that you've got that A equals 15, you can pop that in there now, and you can use that then to say go find the other ones. So say I can use this row by this column, and that will give me this answer. So I can go 0.4, and I'll use that 15 now, plus 0.2 times 5, plus 0.3 times 20, and that equals B. So then you can solve for B, and you get B equals 8.5, and then you do the same, say the same thing for the last one, where you go that row down like that will give this C. So you will have 0.5 times 15 plus 0.3 times 5 plus 0.1 times 20, and that equals C. You get C equaling 11, and then you have a look around and you find that all these answers. So if you have a look, is 15 smaller than B, 8.5? That is not true. If you look at the next one, is 15 bigger than 11? That's true. So there's your true statement. Okay, when you do this last question 8, you have to be careful and read that they say probationary, general staff, and managers are kept constant. So what that means is that if you are going to have E0, is that E1 is going to be, you're going to see that it said probationary are going to be the same, so they'll be 160. General are going to stay the same, so they'll always be 700, and managers will change to 40, will remain. And you don't know what happens there, so that's one that you don't know, so we can put X. Okay, so what they're going to say is that something, when we times this transition matrix by the one before, then we add one, something happens. So I'm just going to call this matrix T, and so you can see. So how we go, if I went to find, I know that E1 equals, now it'll be the transition times EO, and then you're going to plus 1. Now if you're going to add 1, it's going to be the same as up here, because you can only add in the same matrix. So you're going to see a 4 by 1 thing. So I might put A, B, C, D. I don't know what those are. But if you have a look, I know what that is. I put that one in. And I know what EO is. I put this in over here, EO. And I go plus, and I'm going to write out a matrix. So I can put this all into our calculator. And I can even just write solve, put all this matrix in, because you've got that here, plus, and then we're just going to put, and you've got that one. Now in this one, just write the letters A, B, and C, and you're also going to say equals. Now you know it equals E1, and write what you know about E1, which is this. I don't know what the last one is, so I'll just give it another unknown. And then what I can do is go comma, solve, because I said that, A, B, C, D. Okay, and then we'll just go that and press enter. It's going to see, you're going to find out that this matrix F, it'll tell you a few things. It'll tell you what A is, so A is 40. You see G is 108. You see that M is -3. So you know, so this is so you know M. You don't know what this is. It has some funny answers, but it doesn't matter because you can answer all the questions. When it says 40 probationary staff are asked to leave, no, we add 40 because it's a positive. 40 general staff, no. 108 staff asked to leave, no, we'd see a negative. But here you see 3, that's the -3, and that's how we get the answer. Okay, question 1. We have 2 similar triangles. We've got that A, E, and B, and then the big one, which we've got A, C, and D. So you can compare sides. Now this one, I'm just going to call this distance here X, and they want you to find that. So if I just call this side 5 plus X, because that's what it is, you can just do solve and do your similarities. So you go that corresponding sides, because they're similar, would give a similar ratio. So, and then I go comma X. So just remember what I always say. I said check that these have come from the same side, and that's from the same shape, which it is, and off you go, and comma X, and you get X to equal 5. Okay, with this bottom one, the volume, you're just going to find the volume of a hemisphere plus the volume of the cylinder. And if you write out your formulas for that, so a hemisphere is 4/6 times pi r cubed plus the volume of a cylinder, sorry, pi r squared times h, and just remember that the radius is 25, and there you go, end up with your answer of that. Easy one. Okay, with this question, because they're asking you, well, when will the sun set from first to last, it's the same as saying sunrise. So sunrise, if you rise first, it'll set first as well. And we know that the first to rise is the further east. So you want to go further east all the way to the further west will be the last. Okay, so if you have a look, the further east, there's first, next east one is there second, then the next west one is there, and then the further west is there. So there's the order, which it becomes B. Okay, with this next question, if you set up your triangle, this is an ambiguous case question because it could be drawn in two different ways. So if we draw, giving what they said, if you do that, so if you end solve, because they want to find one of the angles, so if you go to find and you do end solve and you do the sine rule, where you say 3 over sine 31 equals 5 over sine r, and we're going to find, what we're going to find is this little angle there, so comma r. What you'll find is you get the 2 degrees, you get 28 degrees for that one. Oh, sorry. You will get, sorry, you won't get 28, but you'll find you'll get one answer, and then you could do 180 minus what you got for r, and that will give you the other option. It's easy if you put it in TriSolve, our new program. It does show us the ambiguous case, and you'll see, because they want in triangle PQR, one of the angles could be, and we see that 28 is here, so there's that one. I would just use the calculator for this. Use the program. You'll see that it's an ambiguous case. Okay, with this, they want the distance between there and there, so we can see that is on the distance on a longitude. So that's a longitude distance, or a great circle. So you just write the formula, which the distance is always pi times 6400 times the angle in difference. So that's at 70 north. So it's the angle in the difference in latitude. North Pole is actually 90 degrees north. So up here on the North Pole, it would be that. That would be its compass bearing. So the difference between 70 and 90 is 20 over 180. Okay, so, and then you get the distance, which is 224. Okay, with this next question, the straight line distance between Moni's house, the chook shed and Moni's house is there. But they give us a little bit of information. They said she walks due south for 30 metres. So you know that this is exactly a compass. And then she walks 43 metres on a bearing of 62. So you know in here is 62 degrees. So when you're trying to find that, if I just labelled our triangle up and you followed your flow chart, you'd say, no, you don't have a right angle. You have two sides an angle. You end up with the cosine rule. So x would equal the two other sides squared minus. So you could pop it in your TriSolve as well. Doesn't matter. Whichever is easy. As long you just pretty much had to get that 62. Okay, with this question, we've got to find the length of the pole. If you go from the top part of the pyramid, and then you've got the bottom part of the... So you can see that that's 4 meters there. So we really need to get this height. We need to get the height of this triangle along here. So if you have a look, if I call like across there, that's across there. So I'll just call that little x. And I know that that bit there is 3. So I need this height because the answer is going to be that h plus the 4 meters. Okay, so if you need now to get that, I need this x. But if you look, you can use this triangle along the bottom because there's an x there and an x there, and then you've got this right angle triangle here. So what I've got down the bottom there, sorry, a bit off, I've got 4 and 4, and I have an x and an x. So I can use that triangle to find out what x is using Pythag. So I could say there's 2 x's there, so that's the hypotenuse equals 4 squared plus 4 squared, and you can solve into your calculator for that. And you get x equals 2.82. And then I can bring that up into this one and do the same. So I can use solve again because it's Pythag. And I can go 3 squared equals h squared plus, I don't know what x is, 2.82 squared, comma h, and we end up with h equaling 1.02. So therefore the height would be 1.02 plus the 4, so approximately 5, which, oh, yeah, it is C. Okay, with this next question, you've got to find the area of this segment. So if you look up the area of a segment and the formula, you'll get. Alright, so if you have a look in the thing, so we know what the radius of the circle is. We can see the radius is 20, but we don't know what this angle is, so we're going to have to find that. So what you could do is you can use this triangle in here because they're showing it's a right angle triangle. So if I just draw that up as a right angle triangle, we know that's 20, and then we know that's 15. But if I put that little angle in there, that's x, and that's an identical angle. So you can see that the angle we need over here is actually 2 of those is 2x. So if we use this triangle, and I'm deciding to use tan, so which we've got opposite over adjacent, so we've got tan x equals 15 over 20, so x equals the inverse tan of 15 over 20, and we get x to be roughly 37 degrees. So therefore this pink angle must be this one times 2, so we get 74 degrees, and we can pop that up in here now. So we got pi times 20 squared times 74 over 360 minus, and off you go, and you get your answer, which is 65.